Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel where we review anything and everything. And today I'm doing a comparison between these two Jurassic World figures. This is the Jurassic World from the Rebirth line, Colossal Mosasaurus, and this is the Jurassic World, I believe it's called the Ocean Defender Mosasaurus, and because it uses recyclable material to make this. Now, keep that in mind when it comes to comparing the quality of the two, because that is going to make this one be a little bit different in terms of quality, in terms of things like paint or whatever the case is. Even though I still think it does a good job, being that it is different material. What's interesting though is that these things roughly cost about the same price when they first came out. The Mosasaurus, the Colossal Mosasaurus, is kind of just coming out just a couple of months ago. So it's still within its new retail price. They don't make this one anymore to the best of my knowledge, though they might. If they do, link's gonna be in the description down below. But whatever that price is now, I know when it was brand new, was roughly around the same price. Both were around that $50 range. And if you go it on sale, it could be about like 30s or in the 30s. So, but I wanted to compare these because even though there is a smaller version of the Rebirth Mosasaurus that is kind of comparable in size to this one, I actually think it's a decent amount smaller, not by a whole lot, but a little bit smaller. And this one kind of fits in between both of those sizes. But since this is the one I have, I want to do a comparison. So, sorry that the size and the scope of these things is so big that they put so much more stuff into frame than I want to be into frame, but it's the only way I can kind of really shoot these right now. And I don't really have another place right now for me to shoot. Where I've done in the past, maybe I've had other locations where I'm able to kind of shoot at, whether it's a different room or whatever the case is. So that's not the case right now. And so this is kind of what we're working with. So I measured this Mosasaurus here. The Colossal one is 30. I came up with 38 inches. It says 36 on the box, but I came up with 38 inches. And then the Ocean Defender one, I just measured it and it comes up to about 29. So it's not that far off in terms of its overall length and comparison. And I'm gonna try to rearrange these, have them side by side. I have an individual review on the Colossal one. I don't have on the Ocean Defender. But as far as just trying to look at the length, I'm gonna close his mouth. So you could see here with both of them in frame that, and this one's tail is not stretching as far. You can't see it from the camera angle. It's not stretching as far. So this Ocean Defender is, excuse me, hiccups, is not hitting the exact length points, the beginning point. Well, let me do that with the tail. Let me bring it back about as far as the tail is on the Colossal, and you can see this is the distance in terms of how far it is for that difference. And if I just quickly pull out the tape measure, it does look to be about like a good 8 inches difference, roughly about. So yes. Now, one thing that was interesting about the Ocean Defender is the material being like soft plastic. It feels like a real feel type skin or whatever the material is. We're gonna call it a plastic, but I don't really know. Some kind of recycling material. And the paint job looks almost like realistic to a degree, because it almost looks like they applied almost like a, what am I thinking of? Almost like a photographic texture onto it or something like that, the way it shows up. So that's very interesting. And it definitely has a lot more realistic of a look to it. But the size of it and the proportions of this one too, I think are a little bit more in line. I was mentioning this in the review of the Super Colossal. This feels like proportionate wise, the size of every piece of it, the size of its body feels more in line with the length of its tail, and it feels more proportionate in my mind. The Super Colossal feels a little disproportionate in terms of the head is super huge and the body doesn't really fit the scope and size of the head. This one right here obviously doesn't have the same fine level of detail because this is using a different material, like I said, so they can't get too crazy with the details. Like there's no paint on the teeth there, and these teeth are hard plastic. They didn't at that time weren't using the soft material for most of the, or all of the dinosaur teeth. The tail, the whole body is bent just like on the Colossal one, but it does have these kind of joint areas, and this is kind of cracking here. So this wasn't a good, I guess this was a way of joining the hard material with the soft material, but it doesn't feel like it's very good in terms of being in the hands of kids that are playing with it, because it has worn itself out a little bit, and you have that little coat on there. But like I said, the tail comes in a couple of different portions. This moves, does it move? Or is it just loose? I think it's just a little loose. I don't think it's meant to move, but I do think the proportions on the tail is definitely better, but you can see it's a different tail altogether too. This one's tail looks more like the back of a shark tail, almost like, and the paint job on it is definitely nice, but I actually like the paint job on this one better, the Ocean Defender, as far as feeling more realistic. But the dynamic of different types of paint applications on the Super Colossal is better in terms of, you got this brown striping here, and the brown continues here on the tail. This is green, but then it gets overtaken by more brown paint, and since that's not the base color, it becomes more of like added paint. Now, I think the sculpting they made for this back part of the tail is brown rather than green, but it comes off as an extension of paint because this part was paint brown while the base was green. So they did it in a way where they probably didn't have to use paint on this, yet it still gives the illusion that they kept paint coming all the way through. And then they added black on here, which is great. Now the tail on the Ocean Defender one doesn't really have paint. It's got speckling, but that's part of the mold that you can kind of see there. But it doesn't have paint on the tail. But like I said, you got to kind of forgive it a little bit because the materials, it's trying to put the materials at the forefront over, you know, paint job and whatnot, even though I think the base of the body of the paint job is really nice. The back fins on these are larger than the Colossal one. So that goes to what I was saying before about the proportion. And the tail is almost as long, maybe not as thick, but it's almost as long. So there it goes to show for the proportions. The front fins are not as long, but they're pretty close. They're pretty close. Not, you know, completely, but for the size of it, it definitely matches up well. Now, the teeth on the Super Colossal and the whole mouth is just a whole nother story, because you do have those new refinements like the soft material teeth in the upper second jaw area, or whatever you want to call that. And then obviously the nice tongue texture on the tongue. But this material is hard plastic, where this material is like a softer plastic, which I feel also too is better for being in water. Where this, nothing's gonna happen to it, but it's definitely like just a different material for that, it feels like. I think you'll have less paint rub coming off of the Ocean Defender as well. But like I said, as far as proportion goes, I do feel that this is, the Ocean Defender is a good size for how it was in the movie. In that movie, it still has a big enough jaw where you can see that jaw grabbing the body of like a T-Rex sized dinosaur, wrapping its mouth around the body and then taking it into the water. I do think the Mosasaur was larger in the Rebirth movie, so this would be fitting for that in terms of the size and scope. So just wanted to do this light comparison. It's not a heavy comparison. I'm sorry that, like I said, I don't have the setup right now to kind of really display all this at the same time. So I try to do the best I can, but it was interesting to see where they've come from this one, which I think I had got for my kids maybe in 2022. I don't remember exactly when it came out. And then you have this one here, which came out for 2025. So interesting where how they've come from that point. And even though this is a Super Colossal, the truth is its size wise is really not Super Colossal. What I mean by that is you have the Super Colossal T-Rexes. I don't have any of those, but I do have a Super Colossal Giganotosaurus. And it's funny, I bought that one at the same time that I bought this one for my kids. And the thing about it is the Giganotosaurus, just using that as reference because I have that, is Super Colossal, bigger than its regular proportion size to the other ones, like the regular play scale version, the regular size version. This right here looks like it would be the size of that version. This looks like this would be the size of the Mosasaur, even though it's super colossal, and that the regular size version is kind of small for Mosasaur. And like I said, the regular size version, to my knowledge, I believe is a little smaller than the Ocean Defender version. But keep in mind too, like I said, points and times in the movie, the Mosasaurus was smaller in the first Jurassic World movie than he is in the, this is what, the sixth movie? It's the sixth movie already? Let's see, you got Jurassic World, then you've got, I think it's called whatever the one is where they're inside the Lockwood mansion. Then you have the other one where it's they're what is that one? Is that Dominion? Dominion? So this is the fourth movie. I'm sorry. I'm thinking, why am I thinking that this is Dominion? Well, now I'm having a brain fart. I think Dominion was the third one. I thought there was another one after that before Rebirth, but I don't know why it's not drawing into my mind right now. Yeah, so I think this is the fourth one. But anyway, so I think this dinosaur is larger at this point in time into the movie than he was back then. But anyway, you guys, as always, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.